Hello everyone, this is T-Cat from T-Cat's Deep Vinyl Tracks. I actually got the name right this time. I just wanted to jump on here and do a video since I went out a couple of days ago, hit a couple of thrift stores in St. Thomas, and I thought I would show what I found. This is pretty much basic stuff, but the fact that I found it in a thrift store is pretty amazing. Each one of these was $2.50 each, and most of them were in really good shape for thrift store rescues, that is. One of the things about finding vinyl in a thrift store is it kind of brings back that feeling you used to get back in the early 2000s when not too many people were looking for vinyl, and you'd go in there and find some really big what would now be considered grails for a lot of people, and they only cost about 50 cents to a couple of dollars a piece. Now you can go in there and you're lucky if you find anything at all, but when you do find something, it brings back that excitement that at least that I used to have when I first started collecting vinyl. There's just something cool about bragging about what you found in the local Goodwill. And so that's what I'm going to do today, is just show some of the things I found. And I watch other videos out there, things that other people have found in their thrift stores, and everybody has a little bit of a feeling of pride and excitement that they found something. Some of these things may not seem that important other than the fact that they were found in a thrift store. And if you found one of these in a record store, you would, whatever. But in a thrift store, it's a little different, and also because they're usually really cheap. So I want to start with a couple of CDs first. I did find this one, Bob Dylan and the Band, the Basement Tapes. This is the raw version of volume 11 of the Bob Dylan archives. And just want to read to you what it says on the back. The Basement Tapes have existed in many different versions, from bootlegs to an official release in 1975. Here they are for the first time, raw, original, untouched, and no overdubs, sounding as close as possible to the 1967 sessions that spawned the legend. So that's it. It comes with a nice book with lots of material to read, some really nice pictures. Quite a big book, and then it has the track listing at the end. This is the actual case that has the discs. Disc number 1 and number 2. So I found that for $4.99. I thought that's a pretty good deal, especially considering it's part of the bootleg series. I also found this by Bob Dylan. This is more of a recent find, a recent release. It's called World Gone Wrong. Not too familiar with it, but from what I can gather, it's more of an acoustic sound, and it was released I can't read that. I think it was around 1998 or something. 1993 actually. And I also found this for $1.99. Sorry about the glare. Chris Cornell's Carry On. This is his venture into more of a popular sound, but still very good. Good vocals by Chris. And the reflection you're seeing is this item that I also picked up. This is my meditating cat, I guess. Whatever you want to call it. Cat Buddha or whatever. Okay, let's get on to the vinyl. First off, I wanted to start off with this one here. This one is fairly easy to find, but for $2.50. Not something I would normally pick up, except for the fact that it was a good price. Phil Collins, Hello, I Must Be Going. This is his second solo album, and it was made, I believe, just after Genesis had released Abacab, so it falls into line somewhere there. 1982, and it reached number 8 in the US. It has the hits You Can't Hurry Love and I Don't Care Anymore on it. More poppier than his debut album, which was it's gone. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Next, I found this one, also for $2.50. Sinead O'Connor's debut album, The Lion and the Cobra. This one was released in 1987. This is the US and Canadian cover. There was a separate cover in the UK, which shows her looking a little more aggressive, but basically in the same outfit. And this reached number 36 in the US. Really good album. This is before she hit it really big with her next album. But this one is really good also. Next, this is an album that I already had in my collection, but every time I seen it, it was in bad shape, and the copy I had was in pretty bad shape too, so I was really glad to find this. Steely Dan, Katie Lied. Okay. This album is their fourth, and released in 1975. It was released between their albums Pretzel Logic and The Royal Scam. It reached number 13 on the US charts. It's more of a jazzier feel than what they had. This is when they started moving to that more jazz rock sound. And the songs are rather short. Steely Dan, the members of Steely Dan, Walter Becker and Donald Fagen, weren't too happy with the end result of this, but I know I really have always loved this album. It took me a little while longer to get into it than some of their others, but I really do appreciate this album. And that's Steely Dan, Katie Lied. Next up is the Blues Brothers debut album. John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd posing as fictitious blues singers. This ended up becoming a #1 album. Briefcase Full of Blues is the name of the album. And it was released in 1978. This was recorded when they were playing as an opening band for Steve Martin's comedy act. It reached #1 and has the hits Rubber Biscuit and Soul Man on it. Very good album, lots of fun, really bluesy, very nice. Most people are pretty much familiar with that. Next up we have the Marshall Tucker Band, Carolina Dreams. Again, just like all the others I've shown so far, these were $2.50. This was their first big album. Kind of put them over the top in the US. Released in 1977, it was their 6th album. And it has the hit Heard It in a Love Song on it. It was that particular song that put this album over the top and put them into more national recognition. That's the gatefold with the picture of them in the middle. And there's the back. One nice thing about Marshall Tucker Band is they've got that country southern rock sound, but they have that element of jazz added into it to give it a really smooth feel. One of the regular members of the band was Jerry Eubanks, and he always provided the flute sounds and the sax, and was kind of responsible too for the overall jazz, the overall horn sections that they had in their music, and that gave it a country rock jazz sound. That particular album was one of their biggest ones, but their follow-up album was even bigger, even though it had no real hits in it, and it was this one, Together Forever. So there's a little bit of brown tape residue. A few of these records had that on it, but other than that, they're in very good condition, other than the fact that it has that there, and they were all $2.50. Another great album. Actually, think I like this one even better than the other one, at least, after a first couple of listens, that is. And it actually outsold their previous album. I saw them live back around the time that these albums were released, with Firefall was the opening act at the time. I do remember it was a very good show, very enjoyable, and got a little crazy there in a few places, but a lot of fun. Next, again for $2.50, Cream, Goodbye. This was their last album that they put out back in late 1968, actually. And by the time it got released, the band was already split up. There was a lot of tension between them, the three main members. Of course, Jack Bruce, Ginger Baker, and Eric Clapton. All great musicians, but just were having a hard time deciding on which direction the band should go, how they should sound, and so, each one of them making their own songs and everything, kind of split them down, I can't say down the middle, but split them in thirds, I guess. But they were at least talked into putting out one last album. This particular album, if you don't know already, has 3 live tracks and 3 studio tracks on it. So it's kind of thrown together at the last minute type thing, and at times it sounds like that. It's still a great record though. Again, $2.50, so who's to complain? Next I have Willie Nelson and Leon Russell's One for the Road. Not too familiar with this album. It is a double album. It's all live material. And released in 1979, it peaked at 25 in the US and number 28 in Canada. The inner sleeve has a lot of pictures of the two artists. And again, interested in a lot of Willie Nelson's music. He's one country artist that I really enjoy, and together with Leon Russell, it sounded like a pretty good bet for me, so I picked that up too. So that's all of the Goodwill finds that I found. There's also a comic book store in St. Thomas that I found out about on Marketplace, and I thought since I was there I would go check them out. I wasn't expecting a whole lot, but was pleasantly surprised. They didn't have a huge section. It was like 3 large cubicles and a lot of boxes underneath that were filled with records. So I dug through. I didn't have a lot of money at the time, but I thought I would grab a few of the cheaper albums that they might have if they had some good titles, which they ended up having. There were a lot more that I would like to pick up, so I'll probably be taking another trip out there when I'm able to get a few more bucks spending money. But I picked up 5 titles, which was not bad, and each one of these was $5 a piece. So again, pretty good deal, and they were in really good shape. This first one is Emmylou Harris, Blue Kentucky Girl. I've always loved Emmylou Harris's music. I think she's got an excellent voice. Usually she sings duets or backup for other bands, and pretty much everybody's familiar with who she's sung with, and she's kind of her own legend in the rock community and the country community. Blue Kentucky Girl, this album was her solo album, released in 1979. It turned a little more traditional country than some of her previous albums. There's some great stuff on here, including some covers, like Save the Last Dance for Me. She covers Hickory Wind, which everybody knows she sang with Graham Parsons earlier. This one she does solo. She also sings Blue Kentucky Girl and Even Cowgirls Get the Blues. Really good album. This one surprised me to find it at $5. Camel's The Snow Goose. Really big fan of Camel. Of course, they're a progressive band. This one is, excuse me, this one is based upon the novella The Snow Goose, the same name. This was released in 1975 and was certified silver in the U.S. It hit number 31 in the top 100 progressive albums of all time by Prog magazine. So, Camel's The Snow Goose. And here's the label. Next, again for $5, Little Feat, Feats Don't Fail Me Now. I've always liked, well, I can't say I've always liked Little Feat, but over the past 10 years I've really gotten into their music. Had several of their albums, unfortunately had to sell them, so I'm trying to get them back again. This was the band's fourth album, released in 1974, and it got up to number 36 in the United States. Best tracks on this one: Rock and Roll Doctor, Oh Atlanta, Feats Don't Fail Me Now, Wait Till the Shit Hits the Fan, Skin It Back, Cold, 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 and Tripe Face Boogie Medley. Not melody, medley. There is a difference. So, this is Little Feat, Feats Don't Fail Me Now. I also found a copy of Paul McCartney's Ram, which I've been looking for a good copy of this for quite a while. And this one is really in great condition. Of course, it's on the Apple label. There's the inner sleeve, inner cover. Gatefold. I'll get it right. You just got to be patient sometimes. I tend to poke around until I get the right words out. This is the only album that was credited to both Paul McCartney and Linda McCartney. Now it's considered pretty much a Paul McCartney solo album, but Linda McCartney had a big part of this. We shouldn't really forget that. It has been ranked as one of Paul's best albums, and Rolling Stones put it down as number 450 of the greatest albums of all time. So that's Ram by Paul McCartney. It has Uncle Albert on it, which everybody's familiar with. The Uncle Albert Admiral Halsey medley. But there are other great songs on this one too. Very well done. And last but definitely not least, this one I actually paid a little more for because I've been looking for it for quite a while. It was only $10 even then, which isn't bad. Now the cover is not in the greatest condition, but the record itself is really clean, plays really well. This is a band not too many people have been following like I have, but I've been picking up their albums over the last almost 15, 20 years, I guess. Almost 20 years now. And this one is called Fantasia Lindam. Now I've got most of their other albums, but this is when they were still a trio. for those that don't know, Amazing Blondell is a progressive folk band. They base their music upon more of the Renaissance style and even play a lot of the same instruments. The three people in the band was John Gladwin. It'd be better to read it off my list here. Terry Wincott and Eddie Baird. Okay. And not long after the release of this album, they became a duo instead of a trio. And for a while, their albums were really good. Then they kind of started to go downhill and became more pop music than folk music. But if you can get some of their earlier albums, it's the progressive folk, you probably won't be disappointed, especially if you like the natural acoustic sound of folk music. They emphasize lutes, recorders, the glockenspiel, dulcimer, harmonium, and the acoustic guitar, among other instruments. This particular album, the first side is made up of the title track, which is basically a suite divided up into different songs, dances, themes, instrumental passages, and they're all tied together by recurring themes, which ties the entire thing together. Side 2 is made up of shorter songs, but they're still in the same vein. You know, you get a couple of dances in there. Just a huge variety of different types of music. One that's very percussive. I don't know, it's just one of those bands that I think more people should be checking out. But keep in mind that it's not just folk and it's not rock, but it's a progressive folk. So it's a little more complex than most folk music, but at the same time it stays very true to its roots. So, Amazing Blondell. Check them out. Okay. So that's what I have for this at this point. I still am planning on putting out some other videos that I've talked about, and I will do that. I'm playing around with my video editing skills. I did download a video editing program and have been learning how to use it, and once I feel a little more comfortable with it, then I'm planning on doing a couple of band biographies, short band biographies that shows their discography, and one of those, of course, that I've mentioned before will be Steven Wilson and all the many, many bands that he's been with. I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear just how many bands he has been with over the years. So anyway, that's all I've got this time around, and you'll probably be seeing me again in maybe even today, as there's a couple more contests I would like to enter. There's a lot of contests going on right now, and I would suggest that you find out what those are and get yourself involved in them. It helps build subscribers up for these people, and they're the VC members that are doing these contests go out of their way to pick out really nice prizes to give out for these things. So look into the contest, join up with them, subscribe to these people, and subscribe to my channel if you like what you see. I'll be showing a lot more as time goes on, so I hope you enjoy, and as always, we will talk to you later. Bye.